Hey all, Zook here, back with part 10 of the All Bosses No Damage run in DS2. No bosses are actually going to get fought this time around, we're just going to run through Shulva, picking up some bonfires at the Tower of Prayer and Dragon Sanctum, and we'll also make sure to get some items that are going to help us out. So as we start off, I'm finally going to remember to upgrade the rapier to plus 10, and then I'll also upgrade the hunter's blackbow to plus 5. If you had actually bought 3 extra large titanite shards back when we had originally talked to Macduff, then you'd also be able to upgrade, I believe, to plus 7 right now for your hunter's blackbow, because you should have, or actually even plus 8, I believe, because you should have 3 extra titanite chunks, if I did that math right. But as we start off here, just going to run on through, and since you have that plus 10 rapier, it should only take 3 hits to be able to kill one of these Sanctum soldiers. And we can cast Urine to distract that archer. And you actually see me mess up because I only rotated the camera and not the character's body. I actually shot the wrong pillar. So you can see that pillar that I was just hiding behind so the archer wouldn't shoot me. That pillar did go down because I accidentally didn't turn the character's body. So just be aware that apparently that can happen. But as you come over here, we're going to shoot this guy on the walkway, let him run up and then move. Now, you'll notice the frog statue spit a poison blob at me. If you actually wait for a second, after you like shoot the guy, or even drop down and then shoot the guy on the walkway and wait a second before shooting him, you can actually wait for the poison statue, the statue frog, to spit a poison blob, and you can kind of hear that sound in the building on your left, letting you kind of run through this area a little bit more safely. But you'll notice we had cast Yearn to distract that one soldier and then stabbed him because he was in our way. And then we shoot the 2 pillars. The first pillar that I had shot raised up the kind of safety building, and the second pillar that I had shot raised up the one that we actually jumped on, and then the third pillar raised up the one that comes up here to the Tower of Prayer. So with all of that caught up, we equip Hush, Fall Control, Urine, and Homeward. And we have Fall Control right now so that we don't take damage on the way down. The Silver Cat Ring will protect you, I believe. But then we cast Hush just so that we can safely run past this guy without activating him. And then have the Homeward Bone out. Be ready to cast Homeward because Forlorn can spawn on that bridge. And since you have Homeward, you might as well use it because it takes several minutes to kite the Forlorn around that elevator area. And now we're just going to run on through. As we run through, we are going to hit this switch 3 times with arrows. And we're also going to need to kill the priestess next to it. And then, just for good measure, I open up this little chamber behind us, just because it has, I believe, 10,000 soul, a 10 or a 20,000 soul. By killing the priestess now. And for whatever reason, iron arrows actually seem to work best on these priestesses, so I'd recommend using those instead of the elemental ones. And then cast Yearn. Watch out for a Forlorn again. The good news is, since the Forlorn does spawn in that sand area behind you, you actually don't really have to worry too much about the Forlorn, just because we do have Homeward, so eventually when we go to get the bonfires that we need, we will be able to just cast Homeward if the Forlorn's stopping us from using a Homeward Bone. And then shoot that priestess. open up this switch for the dragon stone, and then I come back here and kill the bugs. I've gotten up to 5 bugs before, as I would say try to get the 3 that I get here in the video at least. And then if you want to kind of shoot the egg sacs that are to the left, it's the ones on the left will draw out normally 1 more, and I mean if you're patient then it can draw out 2 more, because dropping and going to that left is going to be where the stairs are, which you'll see in a sec. But then we come over here, shoot this switch that's up above so that the spikes go down, and then we're gonna align our left foot onto a piece of rubble that you'll see here in just a second after I equip the fire bombs. So this piece of rubble on the ground, I'm gonna align my left foot onto the tip of the rubble and just a little bit over. Line up the bow right on the corner and a little bit to the right of it. And it really is just all about trying to find that sweet spot. And just make sure your volume's up so that you can hear when the door actually does open. Like I had said in the last video, buy 30 some fire bombs just so that you have extra if you need them, because it won't work with other bombs. And then we'll bait this guy down here after casting fall control to make sure we don't take damage. And you'll see me pause for a second just because he had done his jumping attack. You do want to make sure that the soldier falls down, and you see that I kind of paused on the sprinting just to make sure that the soldier actually fell down. And as soon as I see that he does, then I'm sprinting up out of there. If the soldier didn't fall down, then I would have turned around and double checked that and actually tried to like kill all the bugs. And then once all of the bugs are dead, then your best bet is just trying to go back through the process. Once all the bugs are down, because there are an additional 3 or 4 bugs that drop down, you are going to want to be careful about trying to go down there a second time without actually killing several of the bugs that drop down. So then we just sneak on past this ghost soldier. I cast Hush just because the arrow will still distract, but this will let me actually sprint up to the soldier. And what I've found, so yep, he turns around, is that if you actually sprint up to this soldier, then at least one of the 2 guys in the distance will try to do a running attack or a leaping attack. And as far as dunking these guys, the best advice that I can give is that you want to wait at a corner, and as scary as it is, if you don't bait out a sword attack from them, so you'll see I haven't really baited out a sword attack, they will just continue to like run and chase you until they actually have done a sword attack. And then after they've done a sword attack, then their AI kind of relaxes a little bit. But they do need to do a sword attack first, just from what I've seen. But once they're dunked, kill this statue that is... So there's 2 against the back wall. It's the left out of those 2. Grab the Eternal Sanctum key, and then you're going to come up here, cast Hush again, and then I actually shoot this arrow from too far back. You want to be at least halfway up the bridge when you shoot this arrow. Because what you'll see is that, so I get him to turn around, I walk through the door, but because it took me so long to actually get up there and through the door, I accidentally aggro this guy. Now, there is a halfway decent, like a 25% chance way to get through this. Like you saw, he was just waiting for me at the top of the ladder. As soon as you see him waiting at the top of the ladder, then you can drop down, and then it should give you enough time to come back up. like I said, it works maybe like a third of the time, almost 50% of the time, but yeah, I honestly, I've only tried it like 3 times, and I think that it worked 1 or 2 times, but it's scary. So, especially for this next part where you're gonna cast fall control, but then you have to drop down and cause this other soldier to turn around. Um, I've been able to do it quickly enough that nobody's chased me down. None of the ghost soldiers have chased me down. So I'm not sure if the ghost soldiers do aggro to you while you're down here. I haven't felt like sticking around to try to find that out, honestly. But I make this guy turn around and then run up behind him and backstab, and then 3 hits. Probably could get away with 2 hits if one of them is an R2. Or even if both of them are R2s. And we come down here to Jester Thomas. And I've heard that you can also get a Forlorn in this location. I'm actually not sure if the Forlorn can pop up here instead of Jester Thomas, or if the Forlorn pops up once you get into the Imperfects layer. But if you do see that there's a Forlorn, cast homeward and just try to go through this area again. It is not worth trying to deal with a Scythe Forlorn. But since Jester Thomas does need to gesture, you can deal with him pretty easily before he attacks. And we're going to shoot this imperfect, and you should actually wait for it to turn the corner more so than I did, because it can actually run around to where you just were and then be completely de-aggroed, as opposed to what I did where it de-aggroed after a second, but there was still kind of a second where it was thinking about chasing me. You will actually aggro that guy most of the time. So just kind of be careful. If you see him charging up a lightning ball attack, roll out of there so you don't get hit by it. But now we'll just use the Dragon Stone and come over here, ride the elevator up, and we're going into the actual inner sanctum. Now, once we are in the inner sanctum, we are going to go ahead and grab the bonfire that is down by Alana, and then we are also going to grab some Twinkling Titanite. And I guess just one thing to mention as we are running here to the inner sanctum, if you want a strategy, so back when I shot that arrow and had the ghost guy aggro to me, when I was talking about how sketchy that situation was back before I pick up the Dragonstone, if you check out Atsdarva's All Boss No Hit video, part 1, it's right around the 1 hour 11 minute mark in that video. That is a much better example of how to get past that ghost guy without aggroing him. But if you go ahead and just watch here, you'll see the path that I take to get to the hidden bonfire down here. So when I do this, I do end up having to run past one Drake Blood Knight, although I haven't really had any problems with him. I find that the jump that you make with this route is a lot less sketchy than the jump that I see other people make to try to get down here. So you just kind of follow this path along and then jump off. And as long as you don't baby jump, and honestly, I haven't gotten a baby jump. A baby jump might even get you as far as you need, because it does seem like a far enough drop that like you would travel far enough horizontally even with a baby jump, I imagine. But then we're going to pick up that bonfire, and then we're going to come all the way down here to this platform with the broken pillar sticking out, and then jump across, because there's 6 Twinkling Titanite that we can pick up here. Now, the one problem is that it's being guarded by 2 Drakeblood Knights. So I'm going to use some poison arrows for them, just because I have that extra poison arrows. Now, because they fat roll, you could use lightning arrows, and you'll actually see me finish them off with lightning arrows. And you'll see them fat rolling and see, oh, it actually isn't that bad, especially if you have the stone ring on to reduce their poise. They really aren't that bad to just deal with a bow, only really get scary when you're trying to melee them. And even then, it's honestly, they just kind of have the exact same move set as a greatsword forlorn. So it's really just kind of like fighting 2 forlorns down here. But again, I'll go ahead poison them, and just with the way that this area is even set up, that's kite them, get their health down enough that the poison will tick, and then you can just kind of run through here and just avoid them. But here's the rest of the Twinkling Titanite, and now we bone back. And then from here, we are going back to Majula, because we want to take on the boss gauntlet right before Old Iron King. So when we're back in Majula, we'll go ahead and pop the rest of our souls, level up a little bit. And I want to make sure at this point that attunement should be at 20, because I want 4 different spells. So if attunement hasn't been at 20, make sure that it's at 20, because you want your Yearn, you want your Fall Control, you want your Homeward. Those 3 are kind of staples, but we also really want to have Shockwave to make our life a little bit easier coming up. And then you'll also want to double check that both Intelligence and Faith are at 19. And if you're planning on using the old Knight Hammer against the Skeleton Lords as opposed to using Fire Bombs, talking about phase 2 of the Skeleton Lords, if you want to use Old Knight Hammer, you'll want to make sure that Strength is at 15. If you're fine using Fire Bombs, then you'll want to just make sure that you buy 20 to 30 Fire Bombs from Melentia. So you'll see me level up here. I have 20 attunement. I level up to 15 strength, and I double check that intelligence and faith are both 19. And if you aren't leveling up to 15 strength, then if you haven't bought the bright bugs yet, you can buy the bright bugs right now. And you can even buy another cast of Yearn from Carillion if you really want to. Or even Great Heavy Soul Arrow is something that we're eventually going to buy from Carillion. So a couple of different things that you can get. And yeah, we're just going to finish up this video, and like I said, we're going to start to go towards Old Iron King. We're going to get all the way up through the end of Earthen Peak in the next video. So I'll catch you in the next one.